Hey, good morning, third grade. I hope you all are doing well and staying safe. I'm sorry we're not able to meet in person, but I'd much rather you guys be healthy and, um, safe than getting sick. So, at least this way, we're still able to meet, um, and I can still work with you guys. I know there's quite a few of you that I haven't been able to meet in person yet. Hopefully, when we get back to school, I'll be able to work with you guys face to face, and I'm really looking forward to that. So, what we will be talking about today is what's called narrative writing. Now, I know you guys have been working on some things with writing where you had to, come up with a setting and some characters and a problem and solution. And those are all elements that are included in narrative writing. So, narrative writing is just kind of your fancy word for story, where you're, um, creating something that you want to tell people. Um, and there's some things that need to be included in order for you to have a story that makes sense. So, today I'm going to just go over kind of a big picture of what narrative writing looks like and read a simple passage. And over the rest of the week, we will be kind of breaking it down and focusing on specific parts of it. So don't worry, we're not doing all of it today. Today is just kind of the big picture so you understand kind of what we'll be doing and what we'll be talking about. And this way when we get to different things, you'll know where we are. And yeah. So one of our main things with narrative writing is you need a plot. And plot is your events that happen. It's the order of those events. So what's called, or a fancy way of saying that, is sequence of events. So if a teacher ever asks what's the sequence of events, it just means that the order in which things happened. That's kind of what your plot is the order that those things happen. And in your plot, you're going to have a lot of different things, since this is kind of your broad overview of your story. So it's going to have your information on your characters. It's going to lay out what the problem is. It's going to focus on what is called the climax, which is kind of where all the story is building to, and all of a sudden it reaches this point where like the most exciting thing kind of happens, and then it goes into the conclusion or how the problem is solved and the ending of the story. So your plot is kind of your overview of your story altogether, or kind of like your summary almost. So I also am including in what I send you just kind of the definitions of all these things that we will be talking about. So that way you have it and you can print it out and use it while we're talking about it. But again, your plot is just the order things happen, and it includes your background information, your conflict, the climax, and your conclusion. So once you kind of know your summary of where your story is going, you can kind of focus on some of the details. And I know we talked about this one in the few groups that I was able to meet with, which is our setting, and that is where our story takes place. So while we're reading our brief passage, or just while you're reading in general with the different stories that you guys have on Calvert, you can think about where the story takes place, and that is called your setting. Those are important to remember because, you know, there's some things that can change. What's going to happen in the story. If your story, you know, takes place in outer space, you're going to need to have helmets, or you're going to have characters that know how to breathe without air. So it just kind of all changes. You know, your setting can change the course or the path of how your story is going to go. So that's one thing that we'll be looking at when we are reading our passage. Again, not today. Today's just a general overview, but we'll probably talk more about the setting tomorrow. So after our setting and where our story takes place is our characters, and that is who or what our story is about. So our characters are who the story is about, and they are important because they're kind of the reason why we have a story. So when you're making a character, you need to, you know, have your they need to be, you need to kind of have some you know, background information and everything on them so that your characters are ones that you want to read about and get to know, and, you know, include some of their likes and dislikes, behaviors, circumstances, why they're doing what they're doing, because they are very important to your story. And again, we will look at who are specific or our character, you know, our certain characters are when we go through this later in the week. So then after your characters, you have what's called your point of view. And that's kind of your how the story is told. Is it one character telling the story? Is it someone, what's called a narrator, who's outside of the story, who's not really a part of it? Are they telling the story? How is your story being told? And we'll talk about specific types of point of view again later this week. So it's how the story is being told, or who's telling the story and why they're telling it. And again, there's certain kinds of those, and we'll talk about them later. Don't worry. So then after you have your point of view, you're going to have your theme, which is kind of what are your characters going to learn? Why is this story being written? What is the big idea of the story, and for what do you want your reader or the person who is reading to learn from this story? That's your theme. And we'll talk about what our theme is again as we get to it, because there's lots of different types of themes. You could even find more than one theme in your reading. It all depends on your story and how it is written. Now, one of the major like what's called a drive, where you're what's pushing your story along, is your problem. And a problem is something that's happening that the characters want to change or fix or figure out. And that is kind of what is driving your story. Because the reason a lot of the times they're telling the story is to show what the problem was and then how it was fixed in the end. So your problem is something that needs to be you know, changed, or something that they want fixed, something that isn't good and they need to work to make it better. So usually how a story ends is with your solution, which is how the problem is solved or how the problem is fixed. What is it that the characters do to make their problem better? And that's kind of what your story is you have your story, this is kind of where your plot is going to be. You're setting the stage. So you're laying things out, you're telling about your characters, you're telling what's going on, and then things start getting interesting when you introduce your problem. So now you have this problem, and there's something that has to be solved. So your story is going to have all of this, what is called rising action, which is how your story is becoming more and more interesting, and all of the things that are leading up to what is called your climax, which is when something really, really big happens. And that's kind of when the story starts to come to its end, is because you have all this exciting stuff, and then you have what is called your falling action. So things start falling into place, they start being fixed, and then you have your solution to your problem. Everything is fixed, and your story ends because there is nothing left to tell. So this is kind of what's called a story arc, and how the story is going to become exciting, and kind of the general format that most narrative writing or your general stories follow to be a story. So it's not just a couple sentences or anything like that. You have something really exciting to tell. So again, we'll read the passage, and over the course of the week we'll kind of talk about each one in detail, and what they mean, what they are, how they are seen in our short passage. And so this way we'll have this kind of general overview, which is like our big picture view, so that way when we get back to class we can kind of start reading some other books, and even possibly writing our own short little narrative story. So you guys can know what it is, and actually I think it would be fun to do it together as well, where we all write a class story together and each person can put in their ideas. But anyway, so first things first though, today you just listen to the story. I'm sending it through Class Dojo as well, so this way you can print it out if you want it, or you can follow along on the computer. Just this way you have it, and we'll start going into more of these different elements or different parts of the narrative writing tomorrow. These are just, again, general overview, so you know what we'll be doing. After I post the videos tomorrow, I'll have a Zoom meeting. I'm not sure what time yet. I will let you know as soon as I know. And on that Zoom meeting, you guys can ask questions. We'll go over what you need to. And it'll be a really fun time. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys over that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me on Class Dojo. And I will see you guys hopefully pretty soon. All right, have a good day, guys. Bye.